I'm going to talk a little bit about the materials that I use when I'm acrylic painting. Let me show you this idea of a wet palette. So this is actually a Del Taco uh, canister with minus the nachos that I use. It's just kind of small, portable. It's got a little plastic lid that I can cover it. And I make a little, this is a little portable palette. I have a bigger one that's more of my professional palette. That's this over here. You can buy these. These are great. It's basically a plastic tray with a lid, and it comes with these little pieces of paper that you put for the actual palette. And when I'm just doing more minor work and not like as major, I use these little smaller palettes because they're a lot more easy to portable around. So what I have here is this is actually marker paper. You can use tracing paper or something that doesn't have too thick of a coating on it. And what I do is I lay down, pull it up. See, I lay down several paper towels underneath. Pull this up so you can see. So you can see the paper towels. Paper towels. So put 2 or 3 layers of paper towels and then douse them with water. And then put this almost like onion skin. It's just a piece of marker paper on top. And then I lightly wet it and just rub it down so the water absorbs from underneath. And it keeps the acrylic wet for a long period of time. So I know a lot of you are, when you work with acrylic, it's like you mix a color and it's like you got to rush through it to use it because it dries so fast. Well, this is a good way to slow down the process. So let me talk about paints and the colors that I use. Remember this painting I'm working on right now? This is my sketch. It's predominantly a green and a red palette. There's yellow, but predominantly green and red is my main 2 colors that I'm using. So I've arranged my palette based on that. My reds and my greens, and then this is purple. This is dioxane purple. But let me go through what the actual colors are. I mean, basically, these are the ones, this is all you would need to buy to get, to be able to use acrylics without having to go buy a huge set. So let me show you what it is. This is phthalo blue. It's great blue. It's tends to be fairly transparent. It's great for glazing. This is phthalo green. It's also great for glazing. It's beautiful, beautiful green. And if I want it to be warmer, I add a little bit more yellow in it. This is cadmium yellow light. I use it mainly for like final highlights when I want to lighten up a color and have yellow in it. I use that. This is cadmium yellow medium. It's a great color too for kind of a medium range yellow. These are very opaque, which I like a lot for highlights. This is cadmium red light. It's also great opaque color. And you notice I'm using a lot of cadmium red light, cadmium yellow light, cadmium red light, phthalo green. So you'll see where the colors, I'm actually using them. This is alizarin crimson. Sorry, I can't talk here. That one is another great one for glazing. It's a deep red, so it's a darker, cooler red than these other reds. And then this is dioxane purple. Love this, great for a deep, 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 deep red. I love my purples. So notice there is no black. I don't use black. Maybe sometimes in the underpainting when I want something really dark fast. Black tends to be very flat. It doesn't have a lot of depth to it. And in painting, you want your blacks or your darks to have a lot of depth, meaning it's a dark color as opposed to black. Black is void of color. In the same way, white is void of color. So the way I get my blacks, these are my favorite combinations, is you can take the alizarin crimson and then you can mix it with the phthalo blue. It makes a beautiful, beautiful black. You can also use dioxane purple with this phthalo green, and that'll give you a 50-50. That'll give you a beautiful black. And then sometimes if I want kind of a color that's not as black, but it's still a deep color, is I can actually mix these. Notice I'm kind of laid off the color wheel. Notice this is kind of the color wheel, and purple would be down here, and then the more blue green and stuff will be over here. So I just kind of set it up just to give myself room. Then this is titanium white, and this is matte medium. And I usually have a little bit on there just to keep my paint thinner, wetter. It flows better. I just use a little bit. I just use a tiny bit. When I want to do a glaze, then I obviously add more. So this gives me a great palette. And then when I want to keep it, every so often, I'll use something like this, a little spray bottle, and just mist it. Just put a little bit of wet mist on there, but you don't have to do that too much when you have these wet paper towels. And then, of course, then you have your lid when you want to take a break. Some people I've heard put it in the refrigerator if you want to keep it overnight. I find that this right here, this palette will last me, probably 4 to 5 days, providing I don't cover paint all over the place. So it actually will keep it wet for a long time. So that's my basic wet palette. There's other colors you can use that are very helpful. I use like a raw umber or a burnt sienna. Those are browns. I use those mainly for underpaintings. My underpaintings, when I'm doing more of the color work on top of the underpainting, I tend to like to use more pure color because see, like right here, if you'll see, I've got on the painting, this is just a sketch, but on the original painting, I have a lot of intense reds on here. Well, as I continue to glaze and glaze, I'm going to be glazing green in it, purple in it, a little bit of blue. It won't stand out, but it'll make that red sink in, and it gives you this nice balance. You can kind of see the green and the red right here. Just quick brush strokes for my my block in, and you can also see here I put a little bit of green just to kind of see what it looks like. So the color stays rich, but I mix a lot of these colors together instead of like mixing them just together on the palette and apply them. A lot of times I'll put the green down, and then I'll notice there's a little bit of red on top of here, and a little bit of red here, and a little bit of brighter green. So it gives you a lot of visual depth. Okay, so here's the palette. Now let's talk about the actual paints. This is what my preference is from years of working with acrylics. There's all these tube paints that you can buy, and Liquitex has a brand, Golden has a brand, Rembrandt. There's all these different kinds of brands. Winsor & Newton has a brand. The thing I don't like about the tube paints, they're convenient, but they add a lot of gel to them, which means that the pigments themselves have this gel mixed in with it. It's not quite the same as this. Some sort of acrylic gel mixed in it. And what it does is it thins the paint out, so you can't get the really thick, stout colors. What I've found the best is actually these jar colors. This is gesso, but the actual acrylic jar colors, they look just like this, and you can get them in any color you want. They're creamy, so they're fairly thick, but not as thick as the tube, but they're creamy, and there's a lot of pigment in there. There's not a lot of gel mixed in with it. And if you really want to go even more stout than that, this is the liquid golden. There's two kinds. This is the fluid acrylic, and there's one that's even like more liquid than that. When I was airbrushing, I used more of that. But this has enough body to it. Works really great. Most of the time, this is what I'll use for white because it's just the most stoutest white. That's what this white is right here. It's not out of a tube, and it's not out of the jar. It's out of one of these, and it gives me a really strong white because the pigment is real concentrated. That's probably the best way to say is that the pigment and this type of product is more concentrated, and that's why I use it. The tubes just don't cut it for me. If I was painting thick palette knife and whatever, I'd probably use tubes. But because I work more thin and I build up layers, this works a lot better for me. After I buy these jar colors, what I do is I take them out of the jar and I put them in these little plastic containers, so that way I can take the tip off and then squeeze it. I have little pet peeves. One of them is I hate to open a jar and the paint is all around here and it's messy and it's yucky. I like these. I can't stand these tops because when you flip them up, you get paint all over you. I mean, it's like I've got paint all over my hands right now from doing it. But these work really great. And then I have like a tray that I put all these in and I mark them. I put a little mark on there just to know what color it is in case I forget, which, I'm getting older, so I'm more forgetful. But you can see I just do that and just tape it on there. trick that I learned from another artist. And then so then I have a whole tray of all my colors. And so then really when I get ready to paint, I just put a little dab in here and a little dab in there. So